So right now we're having technical difficulties. I can try to do this and just project my voice. I'm not sure how you guys can hear compared to what this is. If you're okay, I can go for it. If not, we can wait for someone to come around. You think it's good right now? Okay. I'm gonna drink a lot of water while we're doing this so I don't pass out from yelling. First off, thanks for everybody coming today. It's nice to see everybody in person again. The last being by the numbers, we capped it at 20. We're slowly opening back up, hoping that we'll get to around 100 like we used to the next go around for next quarter. But first of all, thanks to our sponsors, Illinois State University, our partners at Sierra, WGLT, Cumulus Radio, Serban, and then also the Bull, Cities 92.9, and Magic 99.5. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Patrick Hoban. I am the CEO of the Bloomington-Normal Economic Development Council. I've got a couple designations up here, probably looking to get a couple more, but went to Millikan and got my Economic Development Finance Professional designation, which means that I can crunch deals. Also participated in the Economic Development Institute, which allowed me to sit for a final exam to become a certified economic developer. And most recently, earned my master's in business analytics from the University of Notre Dame. Go Irish. So I always like to do a theme with these just to mix it up a little bit. So for Q2 21, we're going with Fast and the Furious, not just because the latest cheesy race car movie came out, but because our economy is really spinning fast. And I'll talk about that a little bit when we get into our flywheel. We're going to follow the same format that we do for most of our BN by the numbers. We take a look at 3 individual sections where we take a look at the impact of what has happened when it comes to numbers, how our community leaders reacted to that, and then how we're going to adapt going forward. I really chose this quote because I thought it was pretty funny. I'm sure going through the quotes of some of the NASCAR ones that are out there, there's some pretty good ones. But it says, speed has never killed anyone. It's the suddenly becoming stationary that's what gets you. And definitely our economy is not stationary at all. So underneath impact, we'll look at employment, the 2 different types. We'll look at our retail sales, and then also the investment going on in our community. I always like to start off by saying we look at 2 different numbers. A lot of them that are reported really focus on our LAUS, which is the local area unemployment statistics. That measures how many of our residents are employed or not. And then the other one is the community employment statistics. That measures how many people are working in Bloomington-Normal. Those don't always line up. We'd love it if they did line up, if all of our residents did work here, but there's a lot of inflow and outflow between communities, which is one of the strengths of Central Illinois. Also, whenever I say Bloomington MSA, this is what Bloomington MSA means. It's actually McLean County and DeWitt County. So all the studies that we see, whenever we're getting ranked in different areas, whenever it says Bloomington, it's the Bloomington MSA, it's all of us, because this is how the Census Bureau tracks us. So when I'm talking about all these numbers, we're always looking at the MSA. And the numbers that are up here now are inflow and outflow from 2017, just as an example. The one that spins, those are the amount of people that live here and work here. If it's coming in, that means that they live somewhere else, but they work here. And if they're going out, that means that they're local residents, but maybe they're teachers at the U of I. So it shows the inflow and outflow. So first we'll take a look at our LAUS. Again, these are our residents. It doesn't matter where they work. So when it comes to unemployment, the blue numbers are from 2020. And as you can imagine, during the pandemic, they really shot up and started tapering off. For 2021, we are on a downward trend, which is what we like to see, even though it's not always a good thing not to have unemployed people, because right now, as you know, there's hiring like crazy. So we want to try to get them hired on, but also focusing on some of the unemployed in our surrounding communities as well, because we can input people from other communities. So back then, 2020, which is kind of a time warp, the unemployment account was around 10,000. Right now, it's around 3,000. And I'll show in a little bit how that stacks up compared to other communities. Our employment as well. Employment is up, but it is a little bit flat. So you can see we're still not quite to the level that we were pre-pandemic of last year, but we're hoping to get there. And also, if anyone wants to talk online about a breakdown of each of these, we have it by NAICS code. So it'll say what the manufacturing is compared to retail and everything else. I dove into that one time and I found that we spent a lot of time breaking each one of those down. So we just take a high level now. The new overall labor force. Labor force is a combination of the unemployed and the employed. And these are only the people that are looking for work. So sometimes whenever we talk about the unemployment count, it's not the true unemployment count because it only counts if they're filing for unemployment. There are still people that are underemployed, or not employed at all and not even in the system. And that's a totally different number. So in order to get the unemployment rate, which is what most people focus on, it is a ratio. So to do that, you take your employed plus your unemployed, you get your labor force, and then you divide the unemployed by the labor force. It's always nice that Bloomington-Normal is at the bottom. So we always have low unemployment rate compared to everybody else. You can see it has been trending down since the pandemic back in May of 20. But we are at the bottom right now at 4.2. The closest person or the closest community to us is Champaign, and theirs is at 4.3. We are almost always below Illinois. Now, the numbers that we really like to focus on at the EDC, because we're involved with job creation and retention, and this is regardless of where people are living, as long as they're working inside of our MSA. So it's the current employment statistics. And as you can see, we're definitely beating out the year before. In 2020, it was at 82,900. Now we're at 87,300, but we're still not at what we were, before the pandemic. So we're slowly getting back there. Guesstimating without taking too close of a dive that most of this is really focused around the retail sector, which I'm sure you've seen that driving around town. We have had some places I've tried to go for lunch, and unfortunately they weren't open that day because they couldn't have enough workers come to work. So our retail and hospitality are ones that are really suffering from this right now. The other thing I like to do is make it seasonally adjusted, just so we can eliminate some of the trends. This was a major concern of ours last year whenever the pandemic numbers came out, because we really took a dive compared to everybody else and didn't make any sense at all until we did seasonally adjusted to see how it flattened out. And as you can see, we're right where we're supposed to be. Next, we're gonna look at retail sales trends. And honestly, this shocked me, but maybe it shouldn't have, because whenever the masks started coming off and we could go out to eat, I'd be lying if I told you we didn't go out to eat all the time. And I want to blame my wife and kids for coming down here and making us do it, but I think everyone followed suit, because our retail sales for 2021 in gray completely spiked. So this is all for McLean County. You can see in the past, we're normally around the sales tax coming back to McLean County around 400,000, between 300 and 4,000. In April, we hit 600,000. So people are really getting out and about, which is wonderful, because those are local dollars. And I'll always encourage everyone to shop local as much as possible, because anytime, I know Amazon's easy, but if you go on Amazon, you're fixing somebody else's road. If you're dining here locally, those are dollars that go back into our community so we can take care of our roads. I know Charlie appreciates that message. And the other one that we like to track, which is the end of the line for all of our whole economic flywheel, is the overall investment. So permit counts this year, compared to last year, the total in 2020 was 172 different commercial permits. This year, we're already at 117. Investment wise though, 2020 was massive. A lot of that was Rivian, but they did 290 as a total. We did 290 million in investment. This year, we're about a third of that so far. We do see more of this coming in the pipeline. There's some major projects on the way, which we'll talk about a little bit when we get to our project section. But this is still phenomenal. Having $300 million invested in 1 year is almost unheard of, especially in central Illinois. Maybe Chicagoland, but locally, those are wonderful numbers. And even having 100, I was always proud of myself whenever we were in Decatur and we did over 10 years $1 billion. And then the first year here, you come close to hitting 300 million. I was like, they're going to absolutely crush that in this community. So how do we react to this? And we follow the plan. So with this one, we're going to look at how we assess the numbers, how we solved, and then how we implemented. And it really goes back to the strategic plan that we talked about and got passed last December at the EDC board, looking at our current state, where we wanted to be, and how we were going to get there. And I did want to take a time, I didn't have this on the last one, to go over the flywheel again. I think it's very important, because our goal in economic development is to keep this flywheel spinning. The theory is that if you have really good resources, your local businesses can take advantage of those resources, and then they will invest. So if we start at the very top and we take a look at our infrastructure, have solid infrastructure, get rid of our blight, so you clean up your neighborhoods, do neighborhood beautification, add nice retail, nice downtowns, nice uptowns, good quality housing, which is on the way, that will attract a skilled workforce. If you've got a skilled workforce, then your local businesses can grow from within. You advocate for those businesses to find out if they're growing or not. If not, we find out a way to get them to grow. Then we work with our chamber to enhance our local businesses, and then we focus on entrepreneurship. From there, we make sure that we have incentives in line. We just had an incentive conversation this morning. We'll have another one this afternoon. We'll talk a little bit about that. We try to focus on encouraging development. Sierra has been a good partner in that one. Then after we've got all this taken care of, then we go out and about and we market and we attract. And if this is all done appropriately, we get projects in. And as you saw on all those permits that were coming in, when projects come in, that's investment back in the community. You have investment back in the community, the goal is you put that right back in your infrastructure and you start the process all over again. Congratulations to Mayor Coos and Uptown Normal. They did exactly that on Monday night when they decided to invest in the underpass. This is a prime example. When you're doing well, use this momentum and carry it around. It'll bring in even more. So to focus on all those and keep us on track, we have 3 committees. We have a real estate and development committee, which actually board member Neil Finland, is he still here, leads. We have a business committee and we have a workforce committee because that's so important for us. So the plan itself, there's a public plan that has 15 initiatives. We have an in-house plan that is 20. And you can see over on the right-hand side of the screen that there's a lot of it focused on the development and investment, which is what we're known for. Not much on the developed business. That's really what we lean on our partners for. And then developing resources is also big for us because we do host our One Voice trip. So we'll go over some of these in depth to show you where we're at. First off, project management. I'd say on average over my career, we might have had between 20 to 40 projects per year that are significant projects. And these are coded, they're actually double coded. So we will report out to the public what industry that it is and what the status is, whether it's a lead, whether we've assisted them, which normally means that they've come back for more information, or if it's been converted. If it's been converted, that means that it's basically public at that point. But so far we've had 20 this quarter and we had 43 the first quarter. So overall 63 projects the first half of the year is pretty good. We're not going to land all these. There's no way. This is like baseball. And if you've got a good batting average, it's probably close to 5%. But I can tell you that if some of these go through, they're literal game changers. They're massive projects that are almost scary, but we have to rely on all of our partners, whether that's Corn Belt Energy, the town, the city. We bring everyone to the table. And the good news is, a lot of these are coming back. We start this process by getting an RFP in, request for proposal. We answer as many questions as possible, which I dump all that work on to Nick. So Nick handles that, partners with our community partners, fill those out. And sometimes we get lucky and the state will call us and they'll set up a tour. So luckily we've got a tour coming up pretty soon with a major deal. And if all things go well, we'll continue down the path. I believe right now we're 1 of 3, we were 1 of 4, and hopefully we'll be 1 of 1. And when that happens, we get to make that announcement. And that's where you like to see that investment continue in your community. This is the #1 priority for us. That's why it's starting the list. The next one is taking care of our current businesses. That's Amber's full-time role. She's our business retention expansion manager. She goes out and meets with the businesses to find out if they're in growth mode, and if they're not in growth mode, why not? What barriers are in the way? Workforce right now, #1, comes up quite a bit. Just trying to find the right people, which ties into some of the other things that we're working on. Developer retention and attraction. Last year, because of the pandemic, we couldn't get out and about or bring developers in. All the conferences were canceled. We tried to do some fun things online, not quite the same. So we ended up sending out familiarization packages, some beer nuts, some local beers, letter, just letting everybody know what was going on, almost like a care package. Hey, we're thinking of you. Can't wait to have you in town. This year, it's nice to have them back. So we're actually bringing developers in. Nick and I had lunch with a couple last week. Same routine, go to some of the same spots, show off the community, let them know based on what they're into. We do have quite a few golf courses, lots of great breweries, show them uptown, downtown, show them the potential. In the beginning, we really focused on businesses or developers who had the highest multiplier. So if they're known for manufacturing, manufacturing pays a lot more than distribution. So I'd really focus on manufacturing because it's gonna have a bigger ripple effect for our community. However, now, because of the housing shortage, if there's someone that does manufacturing and they might do a little commercial and they might do a little residential, they're at the top of the list. So we're trying to bring them in town to show them the opportunities. It's like, while you're here, I know we're here to talk about manufacturing, but there's a lot of potential for some residential and to up some of our game when it comes to commercial. Business attraction. This is one of my favorites. I'm glad that this is back so we can actually go out and show off our community. We're actually planning a regional site selection conference this summer, thanks to our partners at Corn Belt. It's actually one of their ideas. We would go to South Carolina, Arizona, all over the place. We would meet with different site selectors and try to convince them how great our community was, with the end goal to be come visit the community. Our partners at Corn Belt said, well, what if we host a conference? Good call. So we host a conference, then we get them here. Anyway, we have all the rights to them the first night, and then we do an overall conference with everybody. And we'll invite a lot of people in this room to that conference to find out what their needs are, but it's a good way to show off the community. Also tomorrow, I'm driving up to Rockford where I'll be a moderator at a real estate journal, Chicago Industrial Conference. So that's another great way to get in front of them. It's one thing to attend a conference and try to get their attention, another thing to be on stage and actually lead the discussion. So I'll be doing that tomorrow, I think at 9:30. So that'll be a fun one. And then also I recently joined Elevate Illinois. Elevate Illinois is a nonprofit board that was put together to tell the other side of the story for Illinois. If you look back in the 80s and 90s at the overall budgets for economic development in the state of Illinois, they were fairly large. Over time, they've shrank. And because of that, no one's telling our story. If you look at Wired Magazine, Inc. Magazine, you'll see full-blown ads for the state of Michigan. You'll see full-blown ads for Louisiana. We don't really have any of that anymore. So our goal with Elevate Illinois is to tell all the positive news stories when it comes to living, working, and playing in Illinois. I don't want to say it's not to focus on Chicago. Chicago has a full-blown econ dev team that's up there called World Chicago that does a phenomenal job. Our goal is to tell the rest of the state's story. That's why this was created. So far, you can see hashtags that are out there about Elevate Illinois, but they're doing a really good job at sharing the information so we can tell the whole story. Then after that, there's plenty of conferences coming up. There's so many conferences actually that Nick and I have to go to separate conferences because they're booked at the same time. I believe he'll be in Arizona while I'm in Florida for one of them. But that's where we go out with our site showcases and we tell our story in order to bring them back. The next one, and it's taken a while. I think 2 years ago, my anniversary is coming up, August 1st, the first joint meeting we had, I talked about how important this was. We got our first approval by McLean County for our standardized incentive. The idea of the standardized incentive is that we'll have one incentive package that everybody knows. So anyone in this room can go talk to a potential business or a current business and say that if you do, one of these things, you will get a 5-year property tax abatement. That's the goal. And this is really matching some of our surrounding communities and other communities in the state. It's been a long negotiation process. It's been a joint effort between the city of Bloomington, the town of Normal, McLean County, but then also our consultants and the state of Illinois to find a package that's going to work to make us even to everybody else. And there are 3 to 4 projects right now waiting on this to fire. And once it goes through, hopefully by the end of August, because one is already gone, we'll get this to the state for approval. And then we can see some other projects come through after that. And then taking it to the school districts and other community partners are very important as well to making it an overall project. This will keep us from coming back every single time we have a standard deal. It doesn't mean that if a mega deal comes in that we're not going to do it, because I doubt we're going to get something like the next Amazon headquarters, but that's a game changer. And we're really hoping that to partner with the state on that. But there's some deals that are bigger than your standard deals that we've had recently. One Voice is something we did every year. This year, unfortunately, was done via Zoom. I think it was effective, but not as effective as being there in person and building those relationships. Our goal from this, though, was to get some of the senators to come back. And sure enough, over the 4th of July weekend, Senator Duckworth did visit with us, which was fantastic. And one of the things that we had to make a change for, though, was at the time, there were rumors of an infrastructure bill coming through. And we actually had, you see Benward on here, our Bloomington-Normal Water Reclamation District. And we talked about the importance of, stormwater and sewer. And I don't think anyone needs explanation now about the importance of stormwater and sewer. But at the time, it's one of those out of sight, out of mind. But whenever we talk to a prospect about doing a deal, they always ask about the capacity. And the issue with some of the capacity we had in the past was because the sewer system is older, there's holes in it. So every time that it rains, we're treating rainwater. So the idea was, let's line some of these sewers, free up some capacity so we can land some bigger deals. Well, now that there's larger bills coming through, we're asking for it all. Both our facilities need upgraded. So what started off as a $20 million ask, I believe it's turned into a $200 million ask because both of our systems that are out there need complete overhauls, which was presented to Senator Duckworth. And thank you, Mayor Coos, for hosting. The next one here is BN STEM. BN STEM initiative is part of an overall workforce resource map when it comes to readiness, getting the next generation interested in the jobs that we have. When it comes to retention, keeping our workers here, which is what Charlie specializes in. And I won't steal his thunder, had an awesome meeting the other day on something that they could be rolling out pretty soon. After that is upskilling, taking our underemployed and bringing them up to some of the jobs. And then the attraction, which we'll touch on a little bit later. I was really hoping that we would have had our workforce committee meeting yesterday because we're planning on rolling out a new app that will actually gamify all of Bloomington-Normal. Self-admitted, I'm a big gamer, so the concept of being able to take my family out on their phone and almost have a Pokemon Go type experience and still learn about our industry at the same time has got a ton of potential. Our meeting is going to be next week, so we'll unroll that, then hopefully do a test drive following, and then probably look for some sponsors. Workforce attraction. This is one that we had to pivot on because the overall goal was to attract new residents here to live, work, and play until December hit and we ran out of houses. So now we're really looking at how do we get people to commute here. There's a couple different techniques. Commuting campaign, we've met with the Pantograph. There's a couple other vendors as well that have done some great indexing to find out who's most likely to commute here. And some of the advertising techniques, I'm sure you've seen them, that if you go on Old Navy or Wayfair and you look at something, then later on you go on ESPN to check a fantasy score and there's that ad again. Then later on you get an email, hey, we've missed you, have you seen this? That's the type of technique that we want to do. We want to find anyone, if they go on Indeed and look for a job, we want to start nudging them and slowly showing up on their TV, on Hulu, on something called Twitch that I guess the kids look at when they watch other people play video games. We can advertise on that as well. So there's a variety of ways that we want to let people know that we have job openings here and that we're a short drive away and that commuting is okay. That's all going to go link back to our BNEDC.com, which has been revamped. It lists all the restaurants now, all the shopping, all the different housing. It's really the romance side of Bloomington-Normal. If you go to bnbiz.org, we're going to tell you why you should do business here. If you go to bnadvantage.com, this is going to say why you should live, work, and play here. So this is where we're going to store our jobs, our housing options, our retail, and everything else that makes this place such a great community. The next one is BN Forward. You can go sign up for BN Forward right now on bnbiz.org. This is an opportunity that will actually match you up with the grants. And it was something that we signed up for, got everything ready, and then they put my phone number on it. And I learned my lesson when we did the county grants because a couple people handed out my cell phone number to all the businesses and my phone started ringing off the hook. So last time we had an economic update, I said, we're going to hire a grant writer. So we have, and it's actually called BN Rise. So now we're going to launch them both at the same time. So when you get matched up with a grant, you contact the consultant that helps you fill out the thing, not Patrick. So it's going to free up some of my time because that was a lot of businesses calling. I didn't want to tell anybody no. So I find myself at some bars at some strange hours filling out applications for different grants. So this way I can hand it off to some consultants. But the goal is, like if you go on grants.gov and type in business, there's probably over 1,000 programs. It's insane how much money's coming out. So we want to make sure we're bringing as much of that back here as possible. Next one is economic gardening. Told you I was going to need some water from yelling. I'm still talking into this mic like it works. So economic gardening is a really cool process where we match up consultants, if there's any consultants in the room, with local businesses that could take it to the next level. We're really close and wrapping up one that's called Project Buck. The idea with Project Buck is they're a manufacturer. They do need some help structuring a deal. So we had a consultant come in to help them build out a pro forma, which will show the community what the return will be. From that is how we can structure our ask. If there's any other businesses that you're aware of that could grow if they had a little bit of help, because they might be really good at manufacturing and making widgets, but they know absolutely nothing about marketing, this is where we match them up. So there are dollars allocated in our budget to help pay for consultants to get our businesses to grow from within, hence the gardening term. Not everything's good news. We did have a rural development fellowship lined up and we applied to get an ISU Stevenson Center fellow. Unfortunately, there were more applicants to get a fellow than fellows available. So we did not get chosen. So we still do have dollars set aside for an intern. If anybody knows anyone in the community that'd be interested in learning economic development at a very basic level, this is a great opportunity. This is a paid internship. It was something we set aside for ISU, but unfortunately did not get selected now. But the goal is going to be to get out into the rural communities because the rural communities have a ton of sites available. They've got a lot of businesses. And this could be an opportunity for them to learn about grants.gov and other incentives that we have as well. So hopefully we'll be posting that pretty soon and getting an intern. Next one is our virtual tours. This is one where we take some of our top sites in town. We work on drone videos, 3D models, and we recently got some property packages from our partners over at Sierra. Thank you very much for that. But it gives us something to take with us to the shows. Otherwise, we go out to the shows and we say, you know, here's everything that's great about what's going on in Bloomington-Normal. If I know that there are companies in distribution or retail that might match up well with our properties out at the airport, I target them and let them know this is for you. This is how you're going to make money. So it's really nice to have those handoffs right away. Corn Belt's also been partnering with this. And the other side of this is you can make some really good videos, which we don't have right now. The 3D models is something that I've done in the past that's worked. And some newer ones I've seen some other economic development agencies do is the augmented reality. And it's literally, you can go stand in this field, hold up your phone, and you can see the buildings in front of you on what something could look like. Could be a cool idea for the underpass, to be able to walk around and see what it could be. But this is what we want to do for some of our, I don't want to call them chronic vacancies, but buildings and land that have way more potential than what they're doing right now. GE building comes to mind. And then our final three that are on here, we definitely need a community vision. I've been saying this for a while, something we'll partner with our CVB and also the Chamber of Commerce, because we're BN, but BN what? You know, we're not the Windy City, we're not the Big Easy. We have to have something. We should know what we want to be when we grow up. And right now, as a community, I don't think that we have that. And it could be because we're changing so fast. Like we became electric really, really quick, and that's what we're being known for. So we'll see if that gets played in, but it's going to take everybody in this room, the rest of the community, to find out where do we want to go. The other one is a Smart City Infrastructure Collaborative, which also follows along those lines. It's really important to have the right kind of infrastructure in place and follow best practices. And then last but not least is establishing a community-wide framework for entrepreneurship, because we have a wonderful SBDC here at Wesleyan, and they'll help you write the business plan, get you started, but we'd love to have somewhere to house them once they're done. I know ISU's got a great innovation hub on the line, but there's some other places that we could use, like an accelerator, some different industrial parks, maybe some lower rents. And there's some pretty cool ideas when it comes to entrepreneurship that I've seen in other communities where they can flip old retail space and actually offer discounted rents. So that will be coming. It's at the bottom of the list, unfortunately, because workforce is so important right now, along with infrastructure. Then, of course, our projects. We had no idea we were going to be getting this many projects. I think, Nick, what did we get 2 this week? Right before he goes on vacation, so I'll probably get stuck with those. But we're never going to deny a project coming in. But it's nice to be wanted, because I've been on the other end where you're basically begging people not to leave instead of getting them to come in. So after all that, it's time to adapt and talk about next steps. So we reflect, assess, and solve. I put this all in one section because I almost always started to run out of time towards the end. I like to keep time for questions as well. Here's one of them you probably didn't know, or maybe you did see this. I get in arguments with people over this quite a bit, because Illinois has always said that we're a terrible place to do business, yet we're always ranked really high because we do deals. So this is one where, I know you can't see this on the side, maybe you can, but when it comes to infrastructure, we're #1. You know, I have my other colleagues that are down in Tennessee and Texas that are trying to play catch up right now. You know, they have no state income tax, and it's a lot cheaper to do business down there. But I said, eventually you have to widen those roads. You have to get that transportation, all things that we already have in Illinois. That's why we're #1. That's what you're paying for the cost of doing business. That's why we're great at logistics. Last year, actually 2019, they didn't do it last year because of the pandemic, but we were ranked 30th. So we've jumped 15 spots. So Illinois is still Illinois. Illinois still has challenges. But whenever we talk to site selectors or somebody interested in the area and they start questioning Illinois, if you look at the Governor's Cup that's done by Site Selection Magazine, we're almost always ranked 3rd or 4th for doing deals, because we do deals. We're a prime example. Look at our permits right now. Businesses are still investing. So there is a story behind every single one of those. We have to continue to tell that story. Or we can let Rivian tell it for us. This was fantastic news. Site search done just this morning, 1 day ago. It's all over the news right now. You know, Bloomington-Normal, because of Rivian, because these guest appearances. We'll take earned media all day. The question going forward is, how do you capitalize on this? Does this work into our brand somehow? But we need to make sure that we're marketing this to everybody, because the earned media and the attention that we're getting right now, we've got to keep riding that wave. And the last one I wanted to go over, this is something we just launched this morning. It's our cost of living index calculator. That's a mouthful. What this means, luckily I don't have to do it, but Amber goes shopping and she has to find out how much a steak costs in Bloomington-Normal, how much a 6-pack of Heineken beer. It's very specific. And we compare that to every other metro in the nation. Because I have fraternity brothers, they all live up in Chicagoland, and I bring them down here like, oh, this is great, but I make more money up there. Do you make more money up there? Because we've got a cost of living calculator that'll say, if you make $100,000 in Chicago, here's all you have to make in Bloomington-Normal. And as an example, let's get out of this and see if the internet's still up. If you go on our website right now on bnbiz.org, underneath data, the cost of living calculator is up. So from here, you can compare living in Bloomington-Normal to anywhere else in the United States. This is something that we did not participate in before, but we've done the last 2 or 3 of these. Something I wanted to do because whenever the pandemic hit, there was always a question of like, how will this affect inflation? So right now, inflation, if you haven't noticed, is jumping up quite a bit, 5.4. That's a record high since 2008. However, if you compare us to, let's go to Chicago, because that's a favorite of mine to pick on, since that's where most of my friends are. Let's see here. Chicago, let's do 100,000. And moving here, should do it on its own. And so this list will tell you overall that housing's going to cost you half. I can personally attest to this. The size of the house that I got up there compared to down here, it's literally half. Then it goes down and compares everything else, whether that's groceries, utilities, all the way down again to the steak, how much our steak costs compared to their steak. This is very important though, when you're looking at the overall salaries, because that's what people pay attention to. If you're in the city, you're going to make more money. However, if you're down here, you have more disposable income. That's why we had 60,000 in retail sales. There's a lot of potential for this. So this is part of telling that story on where you live, work, and play. This is another data set. We've got a lot of data sets that are out there. We're trying to figure out how we can compare them. But anyone that's interested in recruiting somebody here, this has to be part of the story, because no, our wages don't always match those of the major metros. However, as you can see from this, our cost of living is much, much better. All right. How you can help. As always, call Amber and start with a BRE visit. If you're a business owner, if you know any businesses that are out there that might need some help, if they're struggling or if they've got potential to grow, we want to make sure that we do a business retention expansion visit. If you know anybody with land, available properties, there's a lot of land to track. Most of them are in some of the bigger systems, but we do find out every now and again, there's buildings that are for sale that are not really for sale. So we track those too. We keep them offline just in case there is a potential project available. Anytime you want to join the EDC or talk shop, I'm always available. Depending on if my kid's got a volleyball game or not. Summer's pretty slow, but I'm always happy to for coffee or adult beverages. And also we've got 2 openings right now. So if you know anyone who wants to be a part of economic development, we've got a project coordinator position, which is entry level. And we also have an office manager whose job will be trying to keep me in line. So good luck with that one. But a lot of potential, fun office. We do allow dogs if that helps sell anything. But those are available right now on BNBiz as well. And with that, I will open it up for questions. Also, don't forget to check out our podcast, Building BN. We've got some really great guests on there. I think Mr. O'Grady still might be one of our most popular podcasts that we've had so far. But it's a good way to keep track of what's going on development-wise, business-wise, and with some of our other community partners. Are there any questions? Let's see if we got any online as well. Sure.
You mentioned 63 projects.
Yes.
That you're in discussion with. To put that into context, can you provide some historical data of prior periods and projects under discussion?
So my average was normally between 20 and 40. There was a period of time, I think, when Governor Blagojevich mentioned the gross receipts tax, we had 0 for a long time. So to have that many already halfway through the year, it's probably double to triple what we normally have. And as you saw, I guess I can go back to those, they're mixed. I'm happy that a lot of them are manufacturing. We figured that distribution would follow all the activity that's going on. Manufacturing does pay well, better than most distributors. There's some retail on here. But yeah, I haven't seen anything like this. Even in Tinley Park. In Tinley Park, we did a lot of retail. There was a lot of smaller inquiries. These are not small projects. These are very, very large projects. And they also don't include the retail that the town's doing or the city's doing or the county's doing. These are just non-retail deals for the most part. Any other questions? All right. With that, thank you all for coming. Hopefully next time we'll open up even further and get a bigger audience. Again, if you guys want to talk offline about anything, let me know if there's anything you'd like us to cover. But always appreciate the feedback, and let's keep this economy spinning and shop local. Thanks.